MMA rants and raves the question: should the UFC start a super heavyweight division? Now, the UFC made it very clear that they don't want one, but I didn't really hear a reason why. Now, I'm assuming that if a super heavyweight division is started in the UFC, it would kind of degrade the heavyweight division because it's not the ultimate weight class. You know, that baddest man on the planet type of label that a heavyweight gets, because he's the biggest, the most dangerous. It's like size. So, you know, that won't be there. It's going to be the super heavyweight that has that. So it kind of made the grade, because let's face it, you know, the fights that get the most attention and the ones that people really all want to see are the heavyweights. I mean, just look at the pay-per-views and the draws. It's the heavyweights that are getting all the attention. You know, of course, because of what's happening, well, Brock Lesnar, you know, of course he's a big draw because he came from the WWE, but, you know, those are really big draws. I mean, you know, just look at the legend of Fedor. You know, he's a heavyweight. So the heavyweights get a lot of attention. So if there's a super heavyweight division, where does that put the heavyweight division? So that's one way to look at it, you know, and they have a point if that is their reasoning in that context. Now, this has really resurfaced as far as the question, should there be a super heavyweight division? And the reason it's resurfaced is because of the Brock Lesnar fight. Now, I mentioned this in my prior vlog when I did a review about the fight with Velasquez, that, guys, you know, he was gassing in that fight. I mean, he started to look tired very early on. And, you know, I read your comments. Some of you have said that it was because of the fact that he got hit, or it wasn't because of the weight cut. But you know something? I mean, if you look at the fight, like I said, when Velasquez got him down, when he got the takedown, which is one thing I've never seen before. I've never seen Lesnar being taken down, you know, with a single leg. That's crazy. You know, a guy with his wrestling ability, a smaller man coming after him to take him down, that really surprised me. And then he was attacking Lesnar from the top. And, you know, he really wasn't taking a lot of damage in that position. I mean, it didn't seem to. And the way he just got up and started spinning around and lost his balance, I mean, he looked like he was really tired. And then, of course, you know, after that, when he took the combination in the knee, that was the beginning of the end for Lesnar in that fight. But the point is, he just gassed really early without seemingly taking much punishment. Of course, getting rocked can make you tired too, but it just didn't seem he was taking that much. Why did he get tired so fast? Now, I was speculating that maybe it was because of the weight cut. You know, coming in at 264, like I said, a man that big, Lesnar, is so wide, so large everywhere, big boned, just a very large man, 264 especially. It just seems like a very hard weight cut. I'm not making excuses for him why he lost the fight, but that's the whole point of this vlog that I'm doing here. Lesnar, to me, is a super heavyweight. You know, he's coming in to fights, well, prior, you know, he was coming in maybe 280, 285. I mean, so, you know, that's super heavyweight. The athletic commissions, as far as I know, state that anything above 265 is considered a super heavyweight. Now, the point being is that for guys like Lesnar, really big guys that are naturally not 265, they need a place to compete. So there has to be a super heavyweight division. Now, as we well know, in the fighting days in Japan, Pride, and now they have Dream, they put together all these freak show fights. You know, like guys that much lighter weight classes, maybe even middleweights facing heavyweights. It's really crazy. I mean, of course, it may be interesting to see, you know, to see if skill and technique can defeat size. So maybe there's kind of an interest there. There's an element of interest to see what might happen. And a lot of that happens, you know, in Japan, because they don't have the athletic commissions that we have here, the same type of commissions or whatever they do over there. So the point is that, you know, in places like Japan, you could basically weigh anything you want, get into a fight, and face anybody you want. So, of course, there's an element of interest with that, but then again, you know, you don't want to make these freak show fights either. So, in the United States, there's a different type of structure. You know, they have the athletic commissions, you know, making all these rules about weight limits, who can fight who, and everybody has to be in a strict weight class. You got to make weight. They weigh these guys. They're very strict about it. Now, here's the deal with it. As far as super heavyweight division, if the UFC does get a super heavyweight division, what's going to happen is they're going to have enough fighters to basically fill out that division. Now, who do you have? Who's out there that's a super heavyweight? Okay, of course, Lesnar is a candidate. Maybe Shane Carwin. Here's a guy I can see who can easily be over 265. That's another huge guy. So, maybe not much over. I don't know what this guy walks around, but he can be. The question is, how many fighters are there? Now, if a super heavyweight division is implemented, of course, there's going to be a magnet for athletes. Maybe the division will get bigger and grow. I mean, it has to start somewhere, right? I mean, look at the early days of the UFC. Who basically made up the UFC? It was Tank Abbott and Dan Severn and Oleg Tektarov, right? And these guys weren't super heavyweights. They were kind of pioneers of the sport, but the sport started to grow and evolve, and then you got real super athletes coming in, like the GSPs, the Brock Lesnars, and the Randy Couture. So you were having a lot of talent that was being attracted to the sport. So if people are going to say, oh yeah, we're going to make a super heavyweight division, who are we going to bring in? There's just not enough talent base in that specific weight class. Well, maybe there will be if the division is there. Maybe some athletes that are really big and strong and maybe can compete in mixed martial arts, might come in and do some damage. I mean, just look at the NFL. They have these huge super heavyweight type of guys at over 300 pounds that are really good athletes. So maybe there's a crossover. You look at Brock Lesnar. He competed. He was training with the Minnesota Vikings. So, he came in. He did have success. Despite what happened in his last fight. I mean, he was, he's a successful fighter and defeated some talent. Became a champion. Defended it. So, there's guys in a super heavyweight division that may be able to compete. Maybe there's potential to make a division like that. So some thought has to be looked into it. Some thought has to be brought into this. Now, there's another way to look at it. And this is getting back to what I just mentioned before about fights in Japan, for example. They don't have these weight limits. So they don't have to worry about super heavyweights, because over there they can even have a lightweight facing a super heavyweight. They can do that kind of stuff because they don't have the rules like they do in the States. So there it really doesn't matter. But I was thinking, and this is something I don't understand, when you're going with athletic commissions, I don't know if they're going to change their rules to help an organization make money. I just don't understand the 265 weight limit. To me, it doesn't make sense. If you're a heavyweight, you're a heavyweight. You can weigh whatever you want. That's the top weight class. Why is it 265? That's something I just don't know. I haven't been able to find a reason. I've been looking around. Maybe you guys do. Maybe you could fill me in here, because the way I see it, these athletic commissions are basically looking to protect the fighters. That's one important thing. They basically look at this sport. They try to monitor it to make sure the safety procedures are in place. They have refs that call fights if they see a fighter's in trouble. They don't allow any eye gouging or any groin kicks or kneeing opponent when he's down. So, there's rules, and the rules are there to protect the fighters. This is a dangerous sport. So, athletic commissions are important. But there's something you have to understand here, guys. A 265 weight limit may not protect the fighters. If you say, oh yeah, they're putting in the weight limit because they don't want these huge monsters coming in at well over 300 pounds facing guys that, that are 206 pounds, because, that's a weight class where anything above light heavyweight is 206 pounds. So it's going to be a big weight difference. Maybe it's going to be a danger to the fighter. I'm just really looking for reasons as to why they would do this, because after all, there are weight classes. They don't want lightweights facing heavyweights. Maybe it's not a healthy thing. So, of course, weight does matter. But when you're getting very big, when you're already getting over 265, it makes you wonder how much it does matter. Because, Usually guys that are over 265 are really not well-conditioned heavyweights. Some of them are, some of them are not. Okay? So, the way I was thinking is that the 265 weight limit actually is counterproductive, and here's why. Look what guys have to do. I mean, especially a heavyweight, very large man, guy who's 265 and who walks around more than that. For him to drop water and to lose weight is a lot more difficult than for a guy who's in a lighter weight class. It's more difficult for a very large man to lose weight than a smaller man, which makes sense, you know? So, point being is that when guys have to lose weight, it can cause serious health problems. Now, I'm not saying that Lesnar got sick because of the weight cuts that he was doing, but I've heard stories about it. He had a problem with his stomach. Now, when you drop water, you dehydrate yourself. Everything in your colon just solidifies like a rock. You can't move your bowels. You get constipated, and it's very unhealthy for a fighter to cut weight, to cut all this weight, especially in a short period of time. It's extremely unhealthy. I think this Thiago Alves, who's a welterweight, couldn't even make the weight cut that he had to do. And he also got sick. I don't know if it's because of that, but fighters do get sick because of this. It's very unhealthy, and it could be fatal. I mean, potentially. When you're trying to lose a lot of weight, dehydrating yourself can be very, very dangerous. So, the point is that you're saying 265 is going to protect fighters. It may even hurt the fighters. You have to let a heavyweight come in as a heavyweight. I mean, let's face it. Lesnar, Cowan, all these guys, these really big guys, they're like, what? 6'2" to 6'4". I mean, the biggest guys I can think of. But you have guys like Stefan Struve, who's 6'11". Potentially, he can fill out that frame. I mean, I could see him being way above 265. Right? I mean, this Hangman Choi guy is over 7 feet tall. How can he possibly be 265? If he was really serious about his career and he was fighting in the UFC, he wouldn't even be able to fight. There's no way a man that big could be 265. So the point is, there are athletes out there that are naturally muscular, have good cardio. They may be more than 265. Where will they compete? Let's say they want to get into mixed martial arts. I would like to see fights like that. I think it would be interesting. Like I said, you look at other sports. You look at the NFL, especially. There are guys that are really, really big. These guys have to constantly play a long game and go through all these snaps and basically, the whole line of scrimmage over there. They're doing this every week. They got good cardio. A football game is a long game, and they constantly have to, tackle and block. And these guys are huge, especially offensive linemen. So, I think it would be good for the sport to have some kind of crossover, to take great athletes coming from other sports. Let's say they want to do mixed martial arts. They could be a super heavyweight in mixed martial arts. So I think a super heavyweight division would be a good idea. But if they don't want to degrade the heavyweight division, I would say, get rid of the 265 weight limit. That's my opinion. I think the Athletic Commission should drop that. I don't see how it protects a fighter. I personally don't see it. Now, then it makes you wonder, what about the light heavyweight division? If you're going to have guys 206 pounds, they can be facing a guy that's 400 pounds. It's going to be crazy. So, makes you wonder if we need another division, maybe a cruiserweight division, to go in between, 205, maybe up to 230, 235. That would be interesting. Just think about it. I mean, it makes a lot of sense for the UFC, other promotions. I mean, you put another division in, you're talking about a whole new roster of fighters that have to fill out that division, right? You're talking about more potential title fights because you have a whole other division now. Promotions make money that way. Fighters make money. So it's good for both parties. It's good to have that. So you either have another division or you put something in between light heavyweight and heavyweight, like a cruiserweight division. That might be an idea. But I think something here has to happen. I think it's something that shouldn't be ignored. There's some talent out there where you have really big guys that can create a division based on demand. Right now, on paper, yeah, There may be not enough guys to fill out a super heavyweight division, but they're going to be people crawling under rocks all of a sudden that are coming in. They may be very talented. The division just has to be there. And forget about now. This is the future. There really isn't a legitimate super heavyweight division in mixed martial arts. So in order to make one, there has to be one there, and then it can grow. It just has to get off the ground, just like all the other divisions did. MMA started somewhere. It hasn't been around that long as a mainstream sport. So that's the way I see it. And I would like to know what you guys think about it. Should there be a super heavyweight division? Or should we just get rid of the 265 weight limit and maybe put a cruiserweight division between light heavyweight and heavyweight that may consolidate the weight classes, and fighters will have basically a place where they compete? I'd like to know what you think about that. Please leave your comments and let me know. Please rate this video and subscribe, and thank you for tuning in.